Oh, Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, things are heating up in Minnesota. The Vikings just signed a deep threat wide receiver in free agency. And there's more. That offensive lineman trade has officially come full circle. And it doesn't stop there. The team is a strong candidate to land a 6-time Pro Bowl star. And in the middle of all that, a grade that hit the fan base hard. And listen, that last story? Nobody saw that coming. And it says a lot about where this team might be headed. There's one thing that bothered a lot of people right after the draft. That silence at the wide receiver position. The team went through the entire draft basically ignoring that need. And it left everyone thinking, hold on, what about the offense? But just a few hours later, the moves started. And they started with names most people weren't expecting. One of them is Shalik Knotts. And this is where it gets interesting. He's not a flashy name, not someone who came in with massive hype. But when you look closer, there's something there. In 2025, he broke out at Maryland. 717 yards and 6 touchdowns. And those aren't empty stats. He was a legit deep threat, averaging over 16 yards per catch. That doesn't happen by accident. So you think, okay, another project. But it didn't stop there. The team went out and added 3 more wide receivers. Dylan Bell, Luke Wysong, and Marcus Sanders. 4 names at once. That's not random. That's a clear sign the coaching staff saw a gap and tried to fill it fast. And look at Dylan Bell. He stands out. Over 1,200 yards in the SEC. That's serious production. He also carried the ball and scored on the ground. That kind of versatility matters. Jet sweeps, screens, the kind of stuff that stresses a defense. But here's where opinions split. None of these guys were drafted, all undrafted. That means this is about development. It's not a ready-made solution, it's a gamble. And context matters. Behind Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, there's a real void. The team lost Jalen Nailor. And the next option, like Ty Felton, barely showed up last season. 3 receptions. 3. That's not enough in the NFL. So when you put all this together, you understand the aggressive post-draft push. They know they need someone to step into that WR3 role, or at least create real competition. And that competition matters, because one surprise receiver can change the entire rotation. Now let me say this. This could be brilliant, or it could backfire. If one of these guys hits, you solved it cheap. But if none of them do, you're walking into the season with a major hole. And that's a problem, because it doesn't matter how strong you are at the top if the depth isn't there. Defenses will key on Jefferson, adjust to Addison. Then what? Who steps up on 3rd down? Who stretches the field when the starters are covered? Tell me what you think, because this is a real split among fans, and the wild part is this might just be the first layer, because what happened with a key offensive line piece in the past somehow found its way back in a way nobody expected. Now stay with me, because this sounds like a wild storyline, but it actually happened. A trade from the past involving the offensive line somehow made a full circle and ended up back with the Vikings. And when you connect the dots, it gets even more interesting. It all starts with Ed Ingram. Back in 2025, the team traded the guard to the Texans and got a 6th-round pick. Standard move. But that pick didn't sit still. Shortly after, it became part of a package to bring in Jordan Mason from the 49ers, already a new asset. But it didn't stop there. That same pick moved again, ended up with the Patriots, and just when you thought the story was over, it came back. Yes, back to Minnesota. And that's where the loop closes in a way most people don't track. With that pick back in hand, the team selected Demon Claiborne. So essentially, that Ed Ingram trade turned into 2 running backs on the current roster, Mason and Claiborne. That's not common. That's asset management being stretched for value. Now let's be real. This is smart. It may not look flashy, it won't dominate headlines, but it's real roster building. You move one player, recycle the capital, and end up with 2 contributors. But there's a catch. If you think about it, the team used a 2nd-round pick on Ingram, and now it turned into 2 running backs. So everything depends on what they become. If they don't produce, the story changes fast. If they do, people will look back at this move very differently. And there's another key point. This draft sent a clear message. Heavy focus on defense. Big physical players. Guys who bring contact. That shows direction. It shows they want to reshape the identity of the team. But then you look at the offense, and you still see a lot of uncertainty, development, fit, projection. That's exciting, but it's dangerous too. And that's where the debate starts. Some fans see long-term planning. Others see a missed opportunity to push harder now. And honestly, both sides have a point. Because while some pieces arrive, others leave. And one departure in particular didn't just impact the roster, it came back with a comment that didn't sit well. Quick favor, subscribe to the channel and jump into the comments. Your voice matters here. There's a name gaining real traction behind the scenes. And it's not just any name, it's the kind of player who, even later in his career, can still change the dynamic of an offense. And when you look at the Vikings' current situation, it makes sense why this move is being discussed. That name is Keenan Allen. And this is where things get really interesting. Because this isn't a project, this isn't development, this is a proven player, 6-time Pro Bowler, reliable hands, elite route running, incredible awareness. He's the guy you trust in key moments, third down, tight game, he shows up. And for this offense, that kind of trust is not a small thing. In his most recent productive season, he put up over 700 yards and added touchdowns. Even at 34 years old, the technical level is still there. He's not about blazing speed, he's not running past everyone, but separation, intelligence, positioning, that's his game. And when you pair that with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, it starts to look very appealing because he doesn't need to be the main guy. He needs to be dependable, and that changes how defenses approach this offense. Now let's be real here. This kind of move is what separates a promising offense from a consistent one, because right now there are too many unknowns behind the starters. Relying only on young undrafted players is risky, but there's always a catch. It comes down to money. How much is the team willing to commit? There are other names out there too, like DeAndre Hopkins, who could be a cheaper option, but recent production matters. Role matters, fit matters, and that's where the debate heats up. And there's more. This isn't an isolated move. It connects directly to what we talked about earlier. Lack of depth, lack of reliability, the need for someone you can count on. So when a name like this appears, it's not just speculation, it's need. Tell me what you would do in this situation, because this decision shifts a lot. Do you pay for the veteran floor or trust the cheaper upside? And while all this is being discussed, there's a recent departure still echoing. And what that player said after leaving, it didn't go unnoticed. Now the tone shifts, because this isn't just about roster moves. This is emotional. This hits pride, identity, and everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football every single day. The departure was Jonathan Greenard, and it wasn't quiet. He was traded to the Eagles for significant draft capital. That part? Fine. Football is business. But after he got there, he spoke. And the way he spoke, it hit. He talked about the new environment, seeing trophies, hearing players talk about winning like it's real. And then came the indirect shot, saying that in his previous stops, he didn't see that. Not in Minnesota, not in Houston. That lands. There's no way around it. Now, from the team's perspective, there's context. Rob Brzezinski made it clear this wasn't a happy decision. It doesn't make the team better today. It was about structure, finances, long-term thinking. The kind of move you make knowing it will hurt in the short term. But fans don't live in spreadsheets. Fans live on Sundays. They live every snap. And losing a pass rusher like that, it hurts. Let's be honest. The comment was unnecessary. He could have praised his new team without taking a shot at the old one. That never sits well with the people who stayed, especially with this fan base that stands behind the team. At the same time, it's also a warning sign, because when a player talks about culture and mindset, that's not random. That's something he felt, and that's why this part matters beyond just one quote. So it leaves a strange feeling. You understand the trade, but you feel the impact. And then you add the comparison to a team that just won the Super Bowl. It hits harder. It forces a bigger question. Are the Vikings building something strong enough to answer that kind of criticism? And when you connect all of this, roster changes, offensive questions, strategic decisions, you start to see a turbulent picture forming. But hold on, because what came after the draft, that was a direct hit. And it didn't come from a player, it came from the outside. And it wasn't soft. And then comes the part nobody likes, but everyone sees, when outside voices start grading the team. And this time, it was rough. The Vikings draft class took heavy criticism, and not lightly. Some gave it a D grade. Yes, a D. And your first reaction is, how? The class includes names like Caleb Banks, Jake Golday, Dominique Orange, Jacob E. Thomas, physical players, defensive identity all over it. Clearly, the team wanted to reshape the defense. That part is obvious. That's strategy. But the issue wasn't just who they picked. It was how they picked them. Many believe some selections came earlier than expected. Reaches. Players taken above projected value. And in a draft like this, value is where people start judging fast. Then there's the biggest concern. No official general manager leading the process. Rob Brzezinski handled it. a respected internal figure, but not the permanent GM. And that raised questions. Fair or not, that becomes part of the story. Let's be clear, that low grade doesn't tell the full story. You don't judge a draft immediately. You judge it 2 or 3 years down the line. But at the same time, you can't ignore it completely, because when it feels like the team didn't get better on paper, that's concerning. Especially when the offense still has question marks and the focus leaned heavily on defense. On the other hand, there is talent here. Golday has 3-down potential. Banks is a physical force. Orange can stop the run. Jacoby Thomas brings impact in the secondary. There's an identity being built. And there's also Demon Claiborne, a late pick who could surprise. Quick, elusive, knows how to find space. Not a big name, but potential is there. So it becomes a classic divide. Some fans see a plan, others see risk. And being real, this kind of draft shows direction. It shows a desire to be more physical, more aggressive defensively. But it also leaves gaps that still need answers. And those answers won't come from a grade sheet. They'll come when the season starts. And that ties everything together. Offensive needs, tough decisions, identity shift. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about the draft. It's about what this team is trying to become. And when you step back and look at all of this, it feels strange. It's not a collapse, but it's not comfortable either. Pieces are coming in, pieces are leaving, bets are being made, and criticism is coming from the outside. The truth is, the Vikings are trying to reshape their identity. More physical, more defensive, more control. But that comes with a cost. And anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football feels that. Every move carries weight. Every decision brings questions. There's talent on this roster, no doubt. But the fit isn't there yet. It still needs to come together on the field. Because right now, a lot of it is projection. And projection can become confidence, or it can become regret. This is the moment where fans decide what they believe in, the plan that's being built, or the idea that the team should have pushed harder, and that's where the conversation gets real. So tell me, what do you think about all of this? Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go.